Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty watching the stars through the main window when the impossible happened. The communication officer turned around with wide eyes and said something that would change everything for the human race. "Sir, we are getting a message from outside our solar system." Jake walked over to the console and looked at the readings. In his 20 years of service with the Earth Defense Force, nothing like this had ever happened before. The signal was strong and clear, coming from somewhere far beyond where any human ship had ever traveled. "Put it on screen," Jake said. The main display came alive with strange symbols and sounds that hurt to listen to. Then the noise stopped, and a voice spoke in perfect English. The voice sounded like it came from a machine, cold and without feeling. "Greetings, humans of the planet Earth. We are the representatives of the Galactic Council. Your species has reached a level of technology that requires our attention. You will prepare to receive our guidance and join the civilized galaxy under our rule." Jake felt his blood turn cold. He pressed the emergency button that would send this message directly to Earth Command. Every person in the solar system needed to hear this. The voice continued. "We have watched your progress for some time now. Your wars, your violence, and your inability to unite under proper leadership have caused us concern. The Council has governed this galaxy for over 50,000 of your years. Every intelligent species has joined us and found peace under our wisdom." Admiral Lisa Carter received the emergency signal at Earth Command headquarters. She had been reviewing defense reports when her personal communicator started flashing red. She ran to the main control room where dozens of officers were already gathering around the screens. "Play it again," she ordered. They listened to the alien message 3 more times. Each time the words seemed more frightening. Admiral Carter knew she had to contact President Danny Rodriguez immediately. This was bigger than just a military matter. Within 2 hours, every major leader on Earth had gathered in the emergency meeting room beneath the Capitol. President Rodriguez sat at the head of the table while Admiral Carter explained what they knew so far. Dr. Amy Phillips, the chief science officer, had been studying the transmission data. "The technology they used to send this message is far beyond anything we have," Dr. Phillips said. "They were able to translate our language perfectly and send it across impossible distances instantly. If they wanted to hurt us, we would not be able to stop them." Commander Ryan Bell, Earth's top military strategist, had been quiet during the meeting. Finally, he spoke up. "We need to know more about what they want before we make any decisions." As if the aliens had been listening, another message came through on all frequencies across Earth. This time, the mechanical voice was heard by every person on the planet. "Humans of Earth, we will now explain what is required of you. First, you will limit your technology development to areas we approve. Second, you will reduce your population to sustainable levels. Third, you will allow our representatives to establish control centers on your world. Fourth, you will cease all military development and turn your weapons over to Council authority. You have 30 of your days to begin compliance." The message ended with coordinates in space where human representatives could meet with Council officials to discuss the details. President Rodriguez looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some looked scared, others looked angry, but all of them looked to him for guidance. "What happens if we say no?" asked Senator Helen Cross. Dr. Phillips answered. "Based on the technology they demonstrated, they could probably destroy our entire civilization without much effort." Admiral Carter stood up. "That may be true, but we cannot just give up our freedom because someone threatens us. This is exactly what humans have fought against throughout our history." Commander Bell was studying the data on his tablet. "There is something strange about their message. They talk about peace and wisdom, but they are demanding total surrender. Most of their requirements would end human civilization as we know it." "What do you mean?" President Rodriguez asked. "Look at population reduction and technology limits," Bell explained. "They are not asking us to join their civilization. They are asking us to become something else entirely, something that is not human anymore." The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. The aliens were not offering partnership. They were demanding submission so complete that humanity would disappear. Dr. Phillips had been working on her tablet during the discussion. "I have been analyzing their transmission methods. There are patterns in their technology that suggest they have been doing this for a very long time. This is not the first species they have contacted with these demands. And what happened to the others? Admiral Carter asked. Based on what they told us, every other species accepted their terms. President Rodriguez stood up and walked to the window that showed Earth's blue sky. Somewhere up there, aliens with incredible power were waiting for humanity's answer. He thought about all the people on Earth who were probably scared and confused right now. We need to tell the people what is happening, he said. They have the right to know and the right to decide their own future. Over the next several days, Earth's leaders spoke to crowds around the world. The reaction was exactly what made humans different from apparently every other species in the galaxy. Instead of immediate surrender, there was argument, debate, anger, and determination. Some people wanted to accept the aliens' terms to avoid destruction. Others wanted to fight even if they could not win. Most people wanted to find another way, some solution that would let humanity survive without giving up everything that made them human. Jake Morrison returned to his ship after the meetings on Earth. His crew looked to him for answers he did not have. But he knew one thing for certain. Whatever humanity decided, they would face it together. The 30-day deadline was approaching, and Earth still had no answer for the Galactic Council. But for the first time in the galaxy's history, a species was taking time to think about whether submission was really the only choice. The Galactic Council's response came exactly 7 days after humanity's refusal. 12 massive ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, each one representing a different member species of the Council. To any civilization that had seen them before, these ships meant the end of resistance. Admiral Lisa Carter watched the sensor readings from Earth Command as the alien fleet approached. Each ship was larger than anything humans had ever built, bristling with weapons that could probably destroy entire cities with single shots. How long until they reach Mars orbit, she asked. 18 hours at their current speed, replied the sensor operator. Carter activated the emergency communication system that connected her to every military commander in the solar system. All units, this is Admiral Carter. The Council has sent their enforcement fleet. Every man and woman in our forces knew this day would come. Today we find out what humans are really made of. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, now the flagship of humanity's defense fleet. Around him, 43 ships of various sizes prepared for a battle that no human had ever imagined fighting. Most of these ships had been built for exploration or mining, not war. Morrison opened a channel to all ships in the fleet. Attention all vessels. We are about to face an enemy with technology far superior to our own. They expect us to surrender when we see their power. They have never fought humans before. Colonel Tim Fletcher coordinated ground-based defenses from his command center on Luna. Every weapon platform in the solar system was now under his control. Earth's military had been preparing for this moment since the first alien contact. Missile. Batteries report ready, came the voice from Mars Defense Station. Fighter squadrons are in position, reported Major Kate Rogers from her lead fighter. All orbital platforms are online and targeting the approaching fleet, confirmed Commander Rick Johnson from Asteroid Base 7. Dr. Amy Phillips worked frantically in her laboratory, trying to find any weakness in the alien technology. Her team had been studying the Council ships since they appeared, using every sensor in the solar system to gather data. Engineer Lou Stevens burst into the lab with exciting news. Doctor, I found something important in their energy signatures. What is it? Their shields are incredibly powerful, but they operate on a single frequency. If we can match that frequency exactly, we might be able to disrupt them. Dr. Phillips smiled for the first time in days. How long do you need to modify our weapons? Give me 6 hours. The Council fleet stopped at the orbit of Mars and sent another transmission. This time, the mechanical voice carried a tone of disappointment, rather than anger. Humans of Earth, we see that you have assembled your military forces against us. This is unfortunate but not unexpected, from a primitive species. You have one final opportunity to surrender before we demonstrate why resistance is futile. President Danny Rodriguez, watching from the secure command bunker beneath Earth's surface, gave the reply that every human had been waiting to hear. Tell them that humanity's answer has not changed. The battle began when the Council ships fired warning shots past the human fleet. The energy beams were so powerful that they left glowing trails in space that could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. Captain Morrison gave the order that started the first interstellar war in galactic history. All ships, open fire. The human fleet attacked with everything they had. Missiles, energy weapons, and kinetic projectiles streaked toward the massive Council ships. Most of the weapons had no effect at all, simply disappearing against the alien shields. But then Lou Stevens' modification worked. Several missiles with the modified frequency penetrators struck the lead Council ship, causing visible damage to its hull. The aliens responded with shock and confusion. For the first time in millennia, someone had actually hurt them. Major Kate Rogers led her fighter squadron in a desperate attack against the closest Council ship. Her fighters were tiny compared to the alien vessel, but they moved in ways the Council had never seen before. Break formation and attack individually, she ordered her pilots. Make them fight 12 separate battles instead of one. The Council ships tried to track the human fighters, but their targeting systems were designed for large-scale fleet combat, not dogfighting with small, fast opponents. Dr. Phillips watched the battle data from Earth and made another crucial discovery. Admiral, the alien ships are not talking to each other properly. Each one is fighting its own battle instead of coordinating with the others. What does that mean? Admiral Carter asked. It means they are not used to real combat. They expect overwhelming force to end fights quickly, so they never learn to work together against determined resistance. Colonel Fletcher saw the opportunity and acted on it immediately. He launched every long-range missile platform in the solar system, timing them to arrive at the Council fleet simultaneously from different directions. The aliens had been focusing on the human fleet directly in front of them. They were not prepared for attacks coming from asteroids, moons, and hidden platforms throughout the solar system. Sergeant Carlos Mendez led a boarding party that used the confusion to approach one of the damaged Council ships in a converted mining vessel. While the aliens were distracted by the larger battle, his team managed to dock with their ship. "We are inside," Mendez reported. "The ship's interior is designed for beings much larger than humans. We can move through their maintenance passages without being detected." The boarding party planted explosives throughout the alien ship's power systems. When they detonated, the massive vessel went dark and began drifting helplessly. Captain Morrison watched in amazement as the tide of battle began to turn. The Council ships were taking damage and seemed unable to adapt to human tactics. "All ships, press the attack," he ordered. "They are not as invincible as they want us to believe." The turning point came when the human fleet used an old Earth military tactic called a coordinated swarm attack. Every human ship attacked the same Council vessel from different angles, overwhelming its defenses through sheer determination rather than superior firepower. The alien ship's shields failed, and human weapons began causing serious damage to its hull. For the first time in galactic history, a Council enforcement fleet was not only taking losses, but was actually losing the battle. The Council ships began to withdraw, something that had never happened before in their 50,000-year reign. They retreated to the edge of the solar system, damaged and confused. Admiral Carter opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. "Council ships, this is Admiral Carter of the Earth Defense Force. You came here expecting easy surrender. Instead, you found humans. We suggest you reconsider your approach to our species." The reply came several hours later, and the mechanical voice sounded different than before. There was something almost like uncertainty in its tone. "Humans of Earth, the Council will consider this engagement carefully. We have never encountered resistance like yours. We will return with a larger force." Captain Morrison gathered his fleet to assess the damage. Several human ships had been destroyed, and many more were badly damaged. But they had achieved the impossible. They had made the Galactic Council retreat. Dr. Phillips and her team worked through the night studying data from the captured Council ship. What they discovered would change everything they thought they knew about their alien opponents. The galaxy was about to learn that humans do not surrender easily, and the Council was about to face their greatest crisis in 50,000 years of absolute power. President Danny Rodriguez walked to the podium in front of the United Nations building. Behind him sat representatives from every nation on Earth. In front of him, cameras broadcast his words to every corner of the planet. Everyone knew this moment would decide humanity's future. My fellow humans, he began, we face a choice that no species in galactic history has ever been given the time to consider. The Galactic Council demands our submission, but they have given us 30 days to decide. I believe they made a mistake in giving us that time. The crowd was silent, waiting for his next words. Today, I speak not as the leader of one nation, but as a human being talking to other human beings. We have been told that every other intelligent species in the galaxy accepted these terms without question. We have been told that resistance is impossible. We have been told that submission is the only path to survival. Rodriguez paused and looked directly into the main camera. I am here to tell the Galactic Council that they have never met humans before. We do not accept that might makes right. We do not believe that survival without freedom is really survival at all. We choose to remain human, whatever the cost. The crowd erupted in cheers that could be heard around the world, but Rodriguez was not finished. This does not mean we choose war. This means we choose to find another way. While other species might surrender in fear, humans will use the time we have been given to prepare, to learn, and to show the galaxy something they have apparently forgotten. Meanwhile, in laboratories around Earth, Dr. Amy Phillips led teams of scientists in the most important research project in human history. They had recorded every detail of the alien transmissions and were working day and night to understand Council technology. Dr. Kevin Walsh, working in the underground facility beneath Geneva, made the first breakthrough. The energy patterns in their communication system show something interesting, he told Dr. Phillips during their daily meeting. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it follows very predictable patterns. Engineer Mary Johnson, who had been studying the transmission methods, agreed. It is like they stopped innovating thousands of years ago. Everything they do follows the same basic principles, just scaled up to massive levels. Dr. Phillips realized what this meant. They have become so powerful that they stopped needing to improve. They rely on overwhelming force rather than clever solutions. Exactly, said Dr. Walsh, and that gives us an opportunity. In military bases around the world, Colonel Tim Fletcher was preparing Earth's defenses for what everyone knew was coming. Unlike the alien species, humans had never stopped preparing for war. Every conflict in human history had taught lessons that were now being applied to fighting an enemy from the stars. Fletcher met with Admiral Carter to discuss their strategy. The aliens think in terms of overwhelming power, he said. They send a big enough force to make resistance seem impossible, and then they expect surrender. But we are not going to surrender, Admiral Carter replied. No, we are not. And I do not think they know how to fight an enemy that refuses to give up. They have been dealing with civilizations that accepted defeat as soon as they saw superior technology. Captain Jake Morrison received new orders to begin organizing Earth's defense fleet. The ships were scattered throughout the solar system, protecting mining operations and research stations. Most of them were not designed for military combat, but they were all that humanity had. Morrison met with his senior officers to discuss their situation. We are outnumbered and outgunned by an enemy we know almost nothing about, he said. But we have one advantage they do not expect. What is that, sir? Asked his first officer. We know how to fight when winning seems impossible. Humans have been doing it for thousands of years. As the deadline approached, the Galactic Council sent another message to Earth. This time, the tone was different. The mechanical voice sounded confused rather than commanding. Humans of Earth, we are surprised by your delay in responding to our requirements. No species has ever needed this much time to accept the inevitable. We are curious about your reluctance to join the civilized galaxy. Dr. Phillips noted the change in language. They said they are curious, she told President Rodriguez. That suggests they are not used to species that do not respond predictably. Good, Rodriguez replied. Let them be curious. The president had been meeting with leaders from around the world, and the message was clear. Despite some disagreement about tactics, humanity was united in its refusal to surrender its independence. Senator Helen Cross, who had initially argued for compliance, changed her position after seeing the global response. "I was wrong to think we could negotiate our freedom away piece by piece," she admitted. "The people have shown me that some things cannot be compromised." Commander, Ryan Bell had been studying everything known about the Galactic Council. "Based on their own statements, they have been in control for 50,000 years, he reported. "That means they have had no real opposition for longer than human civilization has existed." "What does that tell us?" Admiral Carter asked. "It tells us that they have probably forgotten how to fight a real war. They are used to police actions and intimidation, not desperate resistance." On the 29th day, President Rodriguez sent humanity's response to the Galactic Council. The message was broadcast on all frequencies so that every human could hear their leader's words. "To the representatives of the Galactic Council, we have considered your offer carefully. We understand that you believe submission to your authority is necessary for our survival and development." The president paused, knowing that his next words would echo throughout galactic history. "We respectfully decline your offer of membership and reject your authority over our species. Humanity chooses to remain free, to make our own mistakes and to find our own path among the stars. We do not accept that peace can only come through surrender, or that wisdom requires giving up the right to think for ourselves." The message continued. "We do not seek war with the Galactic Council, but we will not submit to demands that would end our existence as a free species. If you choose to use force against us, you will learn something that apparently every other species in the galaxy has forgotten. Some things are worth fighting for, even against impossible odds." The response sent shockwaves throughout Council space. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a species had said no to their authority. Emergency sessions were called on every Council world as leaders tried to understand what had just happened. On Earth, humans prepared for the storm that was surely coming. But they prepared as free beings defending their right to exist, not as subjects begging for mercy from their masters. Captain Morrison received orders to begin moving the defense fleet into position around Mars. The real test was about to begin, and humanity would face it the way they had faced every challenge throughout their history, together and free. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session for the first time in over 3,000 years. Representatives from 12 species gathered on the ancient Council world, their forms ranging from towering crystalline beings to small floating creatures that communicated through light patterns. The Archon, eldest of the Council members, spoke with a voice that had not expressed confusion in millennia. "In 50,000 years of galactic governance, no species has ever forced our enforcement fleet to withdraw. The humans have done something that we believed was impossible. On Earth, the captured Council ship was revealing secrets that changed everything humanity thought they knew about the galaxy. Dr. Amy Phillips led a team of scientists through the alien vessel, documenting every system and device they could find. Dr. Peter Clark, the xenobiologist studying the ship's crew areas, made a disturbing discovery. "The aliens who built this ship are not the same as the ones who operated it," he reported to Dr. Phillips. "What do you mean?" "Look at these control panels. They were designed for beings with completely different physiology than the crew we found. It is like the ship was built by one species but operated by another." Meanwhile, engineer Lou Stevens was examining the ship's computer systems. What he found was even more shocking. "Doctor, I think I know why the Council species do not fight well together." Dr. Phillips joined him at the computer terminal. "Show me." Their computer systems have built-in restrictions that prevent independent thinking. Every decision has to be approved by higher-level programs that follow ancient protocols. They literally cannot act without permission from their central authority. President Danny Rodriguez received this information in his daily briefing with Admiral Carter and the science team. "Are you saying that the aliens cannot think for themselves?" "Not exactly, Doctor," Phillips replied. "But they have been genetically and technologically modified over thousands of years to follow orders without question. The concept of resistance has been bred out of them." General Frank Miller, who had taken over coordination of Earth's expanded defense efforts, understood the implications immediately. That is why they cannot understand our refusal to surrender. In their experience, intelligent beings always submit to superior force. And that is their weakness, Admiral Carter added. They have never learned to fight an enemy that refuses to accept defeat. The Council's response to their defeat came sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching the solar system. This time, there were not 12 ships, but over 200. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the greatly expanded Earth Defense Fleet, studied the sensor readings with his senior staff. The human fleet had grown to nearly 100 ships as every available vessel had been converted for military use. They are not taking any chances this time, Morrison told his officers. They are bringing enough force to overwhelm us completely. Colonel Tim Fletcher had spent the month since the first battle turning the entire solar system into a fortress. Every asteroid, moon, and space station now bristled with weapons. Even civilian installations had been converted into defensive positions. We cannot match their firepower, Fletcher reported during the daily strategy meeting. But we do not have to. We just have to make them pay such a high price that victory becomes meaningless. Dr. Phillips had been working with captured Council technology to develop new weapons and defenses. Her team had reverse-engineered much of the alien equipment and found ways to improve upon it. The Council ships are powerful but predictable, she explained to the assembled military leaders. They follow the same tactical patterns they have used for thousands of years. We can use that against them. When the massive Council fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system, they deployed in the same formation they had always used. It was designed to demonstrate overwhelming power and force immediate surrender. Instead, they found a solar system that had been completely transformed for war. Captain Susan Torres commanded the deep space patrol ships that harassed the Council fleet as it approached Mars. Her small, fast vessels darted in and out of the massive alien formation, striking at isolated ships and then disappearing before the aliens could respond effectively. The big ships cannot maneuver fast enough to catch us, she reported. They are designed for battles between large fleets, not guerrilla warfare. The main battle began when the Council fleet reached Mars orbit and found the human defense fleet waiting for them. But this time, the humans did not fight the way their enemies expected. Instead of meeting the aliens head-on, the human ships scattered throughout the solar system, using every planet, moon, and asteroid as cover. The Council found themselves fighting dozens of small battles instead of one large engagement. Commander Rick Johnson coordinated the defense platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt. When the Council ships entered the belt pursuing scattered human vessels, they found themselves surrounded by hidden weapons. Fire everything, Johnson ordered, and the asteroids themselves seemed to come alive with missile launches and energy beams. Major Kate Rogers led expanded fighter squadrons that used hit-and-run tactics the Council had never encountered. Her pilots would strike a target and then retreat to hidden bases on moons and asteroids before the aliens could retaliate. They expect us to stand still and fight like gentlemen, Rogers told her pilots. Instead, we are going to fight like humans. The breakthrough came when Sergeant Carlos Mendez led another boarding operation against a Council command ship. This time, his team was not just trying to disable the vessel, but to capture its communication equipment. We are inside their command center, Mendez reported. These aliens have never fought anyone who boarded their ships before. They do not even have internal security measures. The boarding team captured the ship's communication array and transmitted false orders throughout the Council fleet. The aliens, conditioned to obey authority without question, began following contradictory commands that threw their formation into chaos. Dr. Phillips, monitoring the battle from Earth, realized what was happening. They cannot tell the difference between real orders and fake ones because they have never had to think critically about commands from authority. Admiral Carter saw the opportunity and seized it. All units focus your attacks on the command ships. Without central coordination, the rest of their fleet will not know what to do. The tide of battle turned when human forces managed to disable or capture several Council command vessels. The remaining alien ships, cut off from their central authority, began making individual decisions for the first time in their species' history. Most of them did not know how. Some Council ships continued attacking but without coordination. Others stopped fighting entirely, apparently waiting for orders that would never come. A few even began retreating without authorization from their superiors. Captain Morrison led the final assault against the Council flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed anything in the human fleet. But size meant nothing when the enemy did not know how to use their advantages effectively. "All ships concentrate fire on the flagship," Morrison ordered. "Show them what happens when they threaten free beings." The Council flagship, designed to intimidate and overwhelm through its mere presence, had never been built to withstand the coordinated attack of desperate enemies who refused to surrender. Its shields failed under the sustained human assault, and the mighty vessel began to break apart. With their flagship destroyed and their command structure in chaos, the surviving Council ships did something unprecedented in galactic history. They requested terms for surrender. Admiral Carter could hardly believe what she was hearing when the alien transmission came through. "Human commanders, we request negotiations to end this conflict. The Council acknowledges that your species represents something new in the galaxy. The battle was over, but its consequences would reshape the entire galaxy. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Galactic Council had not only been defeated, but had been forced to acknowledge that their authority was not absolute." President Rodriguez prepared for negotiations that would determine not just humanity's fate, but the future of every intelligent species in the galaxy. The universe was about to learn that freedom, once awakened, spreads faster than any weapon. The galaxy was in chaos. News of humanity's victory over the Galactic Council spread faster than the speed of light itself, carried by the same communication networks the Council had used to maintain control for 50,000 years. On worlds, throughout Council space, beings who had never questioned authority began asking dangerous questions for the first time in their species' history. If humans could say no to the Council and survive, what did that mean for everyone else? President Danny Rodriguez stood in the conference room aboard the neutral station designated New Geneva, named after the ancient Earth city, where many peace treaties had been signed. Across from him sat representatives of the Galactic Council, beings who had never negotiated with anyone as equals. Admiral Lisa Carter and Dr. Amy Phillips flanked the president, while Captain Jake Morrison provided military counsel via secure communication from the Earth Defense Fleet. The human delegation was small but determined. The Council delegation was larger and clearly uncomfortable. The Archon, speaking through a translation device, began the proceedings with words that had never been spoken before in galactic history. "Humans of Earth, the Council acknowledges that we have made errors in our approach to your species. We have come here to discuss terms that might allow coexistence between our civilizations." Rodriguez looked directly at the ancient being. "We appreciate your willingness to negotiate, but first we need to understand something. Why did every other species in the galaxy surrender to you without resistance?" The question clearly disturbed the Council representatives. Several of them exchanged looks that their translation devices could not interpret. Finally, the Archon answered. "Other species recognized the wisdom of unity under proper guidance. They understood that individual freedom leads only to chaos and conflict." Dr. Phillips had been studying the aliens throughout the negotiations. "What you call wisdom, we call conditioning. Your own records show that Council species have been genetically modified to accept authority without question." "Stability requires order," the Archon replied. "Order requires hierarchy. This has been proven across thousands of worlds and millions of years." "Has it?" Rodriguez asked. "Because from where we sit, your order has produced a galaxy full of beings who cannot think for themselves when faced with an unexpected challenge." The negotiations continued for days, but the real drama was happening throughout Council space. On world after world, beings who had lived in peaceful submission for generations were experiencing something their ancestors had forgotten: the desire for self-determination. The Zalani, a species of tall, graceful humanoids, were the first to declare independence from the Council. Their leader, speaking in concepts that had to be translated into dozens of languages, announced that they would follow humanity's example and govern themselves. The Council's response was swift and predictable. They sent an enforcement fleet to bring the Zalani back under control. But the Zalani had been studying human tactics and were ready for the attack. Captain Morrison, monitoring the situation from Earth, was amazed by what he saw. They are using our defensive strategies, but adapting them to their own capabilities, he reported to Admiral Carter. The Zilani had no space fleet to speak of, but they had turned their planet into a fortress using principles learned from humanity's defense of the solar system. When the Council fleet arrived, they found a world that refused to surrender. More importantly, they found a world that knew how to fight back. The Council enforcement fleet, already demoralized by their defeats at human hands, faced an enemy that combined alien technology with human determination. The result was another Council defeat, this time at the hands of a species they had controlled for over 20,000 years. The rebellion spread. The Corvain, machine beings who had served as the Council's technical specialists, began questioning why they needed organic overlords to tell them how to think. The Althari, powerful psionics who had enforced Council will through mental influence, started wondering why they had never used their abilities for their own benefit. On the station New Geneva, the negotiations took on a different tone as reports of galactic rebellion reached the Council delegation. Your actions have created chaos throughout the galaxy, the Archon accused the human representatives. Billions of beings who lived in peace now face uncertainty and conflict. Rodriguez stood up, his voice carrying the anger of someone who had seen too much suffering. They lived in peace because they had no choice. That is not peace. That is slavery with better marketing. Dr. Phillips supported the president's words with data. Our analysis of your own records shows that Council species have stagnated technologically and culturally for millennia. You have created a galaxy of children who never grew up because you never let them. And now those children are growing up all at once, Admiral Carter added from her position at the communication console. The question is whether the Council will help them learn to walk or try to force them back into their cribs, the turning point in the negotiations came when a new voice joined the conversation. Several Council species had sent their own representatives to New Geneva, announcing that they no longer recognized the authority of the traditional Council leadership. The Zilani ambassador, a being whose name translated roughly as Bright Wing of Morning, spoke for the new alliance. The humans have shown us something we had forgotten. The right to choose our own path, even if that path leads to mistakes and hardship. The traditional Council members were faced with a crisis they had never imagined. Their authority was crumbling, not through military defeat but through the simple power of example. Entire species were choosing freedom over security, uncertainty over guaranteed peace. President Rodriguez proposed a solution that would have been unthinkable at the beginning of the negotiations. We propose the establishment of a new galactic government based on voluntary association rather than forced submission. Each species would retain sovereignty over their own worlds while cooperating on matters of mutual concern. Impossible, the Archon replied immediately. Without central authority, the galaxy will tear itself apart in wars and conflicts. Maybe, Rodriguez admitted, but that will be our choice to make. And if we succeed, we will have created something better than anything the galaxy has seen in 50,000 years. The negotiations continued for months, but the outcome was already determined by events throughout the galaxy. The old Council system was collapsing as species after species declared independence and began governing themselves. Some chose democracy like the humans. Others developed new forms of government suited to their particular needs and cultures. A few species decided they preferred the old system and remained under Council authority. Captain Morrison found himself in the strange position of training alien military officers in human tactics, not for conquest, but for defense of their newly independent worlds. The irony was not lost on him that humanity, the youngest spacefaring species, had become teachers to civilizations millions of years older. The final document signed at New Geneva was called the Terran Accords, named after the world that had started the Galactic Revolution. Its first principle, written by human hands, became the foundation of a new galactic order. No sapient being shall be compelled to surrender their freedom for the promise of security. Dr. Phillips was appointed as the first Secretary General of the New Galactic Alliance, a voluntary association of free worlds that replaced the authoritarian Council system. Her first act was to establish the University of New Geneva, where beings from across the galaxy could come to study the principles of freedom and self-governance. The story concluded with a scene that would have been impossible under the old system. On Luna Colony, children from dozens of different species played together in the low gravity, learning from each other without fear or prejudice. Human children taught alien youngsters games that required quick thinking and individual creativity. Alien children shared stories of worlds and cultures that expanded human understanding of what was possible. Admiral Carter, watching the children play, reflected on what humanity had accomplished. They had not conquered the galaxy through superior firepower or advanced technology. They had conquered it through the simple but revolutionary idea that free beings could choose to cooperate rather than being forced to submit. The galaxy was no longer unified under a single authority, but it was more truly united than it had ever been before. Beings who chose to work together created stronger bonds than those who were compelled to obey. Captain Morrison, now commanding the first joint human-alien exploration fleet, prepared to venture beyond the galaxy's borders to see what lay in the vast darkness between the stars. Humanity had given the galaxy the gift of freedom, and now free beings would explore the universe together. President Rodriguez, in his final speech before retiring from office, captured the meaning of what had happened. We were told that resistance was futile, that submission was inevitable, that freedom was impossible. We proved them wrong not because we were stronger, but because we remembered something the galaxy had forgotten. Sometimes, the most powerful word in any language is a simple no spoken by people who refuse to bow.